is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Monday, April 26th edition of LvLUp Live, your home for gaming and esports news, brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco. You can call me John, and that dude with the oddly familiar background on his wall, it's very familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere before. That is the king of the courtside king, aka Joey. What's up, buddy?
Doing well, John. LvLUp Nation, welcome to the virtual OTN studio for those live with us here on Twitch. We changed things up a little bit. The flags are gone. I'm still a Fnatic fan. I'm still a Washington Justice fan, but a little bit of a different background this week, as well as a few other fun things for this week as well.
Yeah, it's so the whole thing was like trip people up here on Twitch because make them think like Joey's like right next to me. He's not. He's still like 10 miles away. So it's fine. It is what it is. Joey just doesn't want to be in the same area, and I don't blame him. COVID's still a thing. So even though I just had my second shot,
for what it's worth, I tried to get blue tiles, and John, you can tell them the condition of those tiles. They weren't too pretty. They were a little misshapen and such. So we ended up going with the same company that John did, and the only colors available for them were charcoal and this. What was this? Burgundy, I believe, is what it was called.
It's a beautiful burgundy.
It's a wonderful burgundy. Very nice. It pops very well. You have a great choice to begin with. So it ended up being the only option, and it was a great option at that. So we ended up going with it in the end.
And fam, that blue was bright. It was a very bright blue, whether Joey wants to admit it or not. I saw
it was
that.
like a very like sky blue.
I had to put my glasses, my sunglasses on when I walked into your house to help you out there, Joey. It was bright blue. Okay, it wasn't me that was that blue, but it's all good. Nation, if you're watching here live on Twitch, if you're listening to the podcast version of the show as well, that means I hope you are following us on social media. If you're not, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at LvLUp Live. That's at LvLUp Live. And while you're on Twitter, you're already listening to us. You already watch us. You better be following us as well on Twitter. You can find Joey at Courtside King, myself at Fiasco. You're watching here live on Twitch. Those are the handles right below the mugshots you're currently staring at. If you're listening on the podcast, you're down the road at your earliest convenience. They'll be in the show notes for you below as well. And Nation, if I didn't say podcast enough, I'll say it one more time. LvLUp Live is available on our podcast version of the show called the LvLUp Podcast. It's available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And since you're listening to the podcast version, why not leave us a review? Reviews do go a long way, not only help grow the audience, but also providing us the feedback that we want so we can make the show what you, our listeners and viewers, want the most. So please, all feedback is welcomed. All right, Joey, it is Monday. I'm exhausted for a Monday. I don't know if it's the side effects of the COVID shot or not, but I'm tired, but I am pumped for this show. So what are we talking about today?
Absolutely. So we're going to kick things off with a few industry acquisitions as well as influencer signings. And from there, we're going to talk about an AIM Lab partnership with a couple different esports titles. It's pretty cool, and it should be fun to hit on. We're going to talk a little bit about Fortnite and a new dance and player being added into that. We're talking EA's new Knockout City coming out in May. We're diving into Apex Legends' new arena mode. We're looking at the Olympics set to host esports potentially after that debate went back and forth for a while. We're talking Respawn Entertainment and their Oscar-winning movie. The first game studio to do that, in fact. A few game leaks, John. We're talking Overwatch League Week 2. There's quite a bit to cover, and maybe a little bit of a surprise at the top of the show as well.
Let me go ahead and unmute myself as I'm putting some notes in here as well. Yes, absolutely. So we have some amazing topics here, Joey. It may be a surprise at the top of the show. We'll find out. We'll find out if we want to put everything out up front or make people wait till the end. We'll find out here in just a few moments. But Joey, before we even make that decision, I have to ask you, it's a very important segment. It's one of my personal favorite segments. It's the drink of choice segment, because I'm going to say segment at least 3 more times. So what is your beverage of choice, sir, for today, Monday, the 26th of April?
John, there are a lot of reasons to celebrate this week. One of those surprises, the Washington Justice going 2-0. D-Rod Ballin was found and returned, a good OTN community member over there. So lots of things to celebrate. I'm going to cheers it with some bourbon. Cracked out the old Woodford Reserve once again. The bottle has been refilled, and so is my glass.
D-Rod was lost and found. That was a fantastic running joke. You can't hide, D-Rod. So well done there, Joey. Well done. I'm going back to the beautiful copper mug. It is the Bloody Comrade making its return to LvLUp Live. It's been a while since I had this on the show. I am super excited. Again, it's hibiscus ginger beer and a splash of vodka. That's the way to kick off your work week right there, fam. So, Joey, we have our topics. We have our drinks. D-Rod has been found. Let's kick it off. Let's get right into gaming and esports news. Let's go.
Absolutely. We'll kick it off with some acquisitions. And then, John, if you want to jump in here at any point for one of those surprises, feel free to do so. We'll kick things off with the Overwatch League, though. After an 0-2 start and a -4 map differential through 2 weeks of play, the Hangzhou Spark have decided to make a coaching change. Head coach Pa Jian and assistant coach Noru have been removed. We're going to see Andante serve as the interim head coach now. So very early on to be making a coaching change or a player change in general. It's just 2 weeks into the season, but apparently the Hangzhou Spark thinking that things are not going the direction they want to with that 0-2 start, not feeling great about that -4 map differential, and they're not going to let it continue on at that rate. Maybe there's other things happening behind the scenes that we don't know about as well, but at least for now, the thing we do know is that they're making a change very early, and they're going to go ahead and move forward with Andante at this point.
Yeah, and by no means is Hangzhou the worst team in the league. I believe they're actually 5th from the bottom. Now, that does sound still pretty bad, but they're not the worst performing team. Having a -4 map differential through 3 games, I mean, I really don't think it's that big of a deal. But it's an organization that doesn't want to be on that end. The current meta is very fixed in the rush meta and the double bubble meta. And they're struggling at both. So they want to make that move, and they think it's a coaching move that needs to be made. So that's what they're doing, to pulling the trigger early. It might be a little early in the season, which does beg the question of if there's anything going on behind the scenes there with the Spark. But regardless, it's an organization that doesn't want to fall behind. They want to be able to catch back up here in the May qualifier as well.
Speaking of organizations not looking to fall behind, but rather to lead the way, FaZe Clan, John, continuing to make really big moves in athletics. This one in particular, they have added Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray as an official member. So continuing to go out and be beyond an esport brand. We've seen them jump into clothing, kind of like a streetwear brand. We've seen them go into influencing as far as musicians, artists, athletes, pretty much anything you can think of. There's a FaZe Clan logo on it in all different areas of the industry. This latest one, Kyler Murray, is a big pickup. Hot quarterback coming out, looking really good on the field, continuing to be up there and up and coming in stat categories. He's not a Tom Brady. He's not an Aaron Rodgers. He's the next generation of that potentially. So what do you go for? You go for one of those athletes that could be the next big thing. They're banking on Kyler Murray being that. And on top of that, he's already a gamer. John, he streams on Twitch on his off days, or at least when he's not on the field, already amassing 60,000 viewers on Twitch so far. And that's only going to grow with the FaZe Clan brand as well. Now you throw people who are indigenous to esports in a sense with FaZe Clan. They're already so heavily involved in esports and gaming. You're going to bring that audience to Kyler's channel. And on top of that, some of Kyler's fans to the FaZe Clan brand as well. So this is a win-win for both parties. And he's going to join a list of growing athletes. They already have NBA star Ben Simmons on their roster, as well as LeBron James' son, Bronny, as well.
Yeah, Joey. And I think the biggest accolade for Kyler Murray right now is the fact that he led my fantasy team to a championship in the OTN League, where I just absolutely laid down the smackdown on everyone in fantasy football. Kyler Murray quarterbacking that fantastic team to another OTN championship.
Have you won 2?
Yeah, I've won 2 in the league.
Wow.
Yeah. Where's my belt,
The
Joey?
reigning champion.
I want my belt. Let's go.
Maybe we should do a belt. Should we do a belt or a trophy? That could be lots of fun.
Totally do a belt. I would. Yeah, I will go full Conor McGregor and just swag walk everywhere with that belt on. Totally, I'll do it.
That's how we're going to open up Level Up from now on, too, is a picture of John with his fantasy football belt on.
Let's go.
And I'll have a few trophies for the LCS and LEC. We can have a lot of fun with this. It could be very
I'm down. Let's do this. We'll rearrange the budget here a little bit for OTN, and we'll acquire a wrestling style belt for the championship.
Yeah, there you go. If you guys want to fund our gold-plated belt, you can do so. Patreon.com/OTN.
We'll have the championship belt tier. It's like $500 to customize like a legit belt and whatnot. No, we're not going to do that.
Oh, that makes me nervous. I can only imagine what people would put on that thing. Can only imagine.
Sponsored by T-Spans. No.
Just a couple more acquisitions, one that John might break for us. Industry news, People Can Fly has acquired Phosphor Games. They're reestablishing them as People Can Fly Chicago as kind of like a second winged branch to their People Can Fly studios. People Can Fly is currently working on 3 AAA projects, 2 for Square Enix. They just released Outriders at the beginning of April. It's done extremely well on Steam, also on Xbox Game Pass, the first AAA game to launch on there in day one, doing really well with the Xbox audience. And on top of that, that third project, they are working on an action-adventure game for Take-Two Interactive. So another smaller studio, John, continuing to expand. This seems to be a theme in the industry right now with kind of, we can't really call them an indie because they are working under Square Enix, but these smaller studios continuing to have success with their smaller projects are branching out and becoming more AAA studios and then eventually moving into second and third studios as well.
Yeah, it's really exciting. You want to see that kind of growth. Let's be real here. Indie developers don't want to stay indie forever. They want to get to that big status level where they have that money coming in, where they can easily put together a team to put together a really talented AAA title. So it's a good move. I like it, and I think it's going to benefit the gamers in the long run.
Absolutely. Speaking of gamers, John, do you want to hold off on your news for a little while and keep moving, or do you want to drop it here in the acquisition section?
It is technically an acquisition, so I'll go ahead and do it now.
It's also an investment, though, so it could fit both ways. It's up to you.
It really, we'll just do it right now. It's fine.
I know we have D-Rod over here live, as well as all the listeners that I cannot wait to hear reactions from.
As I just drop everything I'm trying to hold up. Hold on 1 second. So, as everyone knows, it is almost impossible to get a next gen console. I'm having to use my feet to pick the box back up. All right, so it's been impossible to get a next gen console. I did manage to get my hands on a next gen console. It's very exciting. I've kept it a secret for a little bit. Joey's pretty much been the only one who's known about this. So I am curious about D-Rod's reaction in this. Joey, I am pleased to announce that I have acquired an Xbox Series X. It's so big it barely even fits onto the camera screen. I've acquired the Series X, and D-Rod's already yelling at me in chat. So I've been trying to get a new Xbox for probably about a good solid 3 months. And I got lucky during the last week's GameStop restock. So D-Rod's actually crying over this. This is ridiculous. So yeah, got it. Came in today. Set it all up. It's good to go. I've already been playing Madden on it. I've already been playing MLB The Show on it. Downloading a couple other games. It was that bundle deal that came with the 2 years of Game Pass on it too, because like Joey says during his shill rants, it is literally the best deal in gaming right now. So all that bundled together, it's a stupid good deal. So I pulled the trigger on it mainly because it's almost impossible to find a PlayStation 5 at the moment. So Xbox has currently won me over for the time being. We'll see how long this lasts. But yes, I've acquired a Series X1 360 720 X360 XS box again. So there we go. Boom.
So we're excited about it. Everyone here is excited. Panic and Pat is not in chat, so I'm curious if he'll hear it later on a podcast episode or if we'll break it to him in a different way. John originally had this crazy video idea.
Oh my gosh. I'm so mad. So I was going to do it yesterday, but I've said it I said it a couple of times. I got my second COVID shot yesterday, and really the only side effect I'm having is that I'm just tired. And I just wasn't motivated to go out and just, but essentially I was going to make like a horror movie kind of thing of like where I was like running through the forest and like having these dreams, like this, all these green flashing lights. And then it would like pan to me, like waking up in bed, and I like pull the covers off and there's the Xbox sitting next to me and I scream, and that would be like the whole thing. I was going to put that together, but I just was way too lazy to do it because I was tired. So yeah, so you just got the makeshift announcement here with me holding the box up after I dropped it, trying to get it back with my feet. So there you go. Boom.
We'll see. We'll see how we break it to Pat. We might wait for him to listen to the podcast. We might mention it a little bit earlier. Who knows? Maybe even the video comes out if he takes too long to find out.
Oh.
But yeah, the video idea is great, but I like the way you broke it here as well. And I am stoked. I know D-Rod in chat is stoked as well. Hit up some Battlefront potentially. We got that NBA 2K Life potentially.
I have to buy that,
MLB
though.
The Show is on there for now. It's probably going to be in Game Pass soon. But yeah, a lot of different things are available there. And that's the nice thing about getting a new Xbox console right now. And again, I am a little bit of a shill for this, for those who have listened before. But you start with a library of like 350 games already. Like, that to me is alone very, very worth it. So, John, do you want to drop your gamer tag, or you want to keep that private for now?
If you really want my gamer tag, you can DM me No, actually, no, don't even DM me. Just hit me up in the OTN Discord, general chat, ping me, and I'll let you have. I'm not going to put it out there for everyone. If you really want it, feel free to hit me up on Discord.
There you go. So if you want to add Jon, hit him up on Discord, and he will go ahead and add you to his friends list over there. Welcome to the Xbox community, but you've already been here because you're a PC gamer, but now joining that console side as well.
Gross.
I'm stoked. A little bit of partnerships and investments. So on top of Jon partnering with Xbox, OTN has also had the pleasure of signing an agreement with the Overwatch League and particularly the Washington Justice. We weren't sure if we could announce it last week because we were waiting on official news to come out. But Jon and I are glad to state that OTN Media has partnered with the Washington Justice, and we are now the official co-streamers for this Overwatch League season.
Yeah, and it's been a fantastic start. So far, Joey, we're undefeated co-streaming. The Justice are 2-0. So I feel like that has to be a good omen. I feel like I'm kind of bringing some of my luck over from the WizDG broadcast I was doing with Monumental, because they won the championship the first year they had me on as the play-by-play guy. So I kind of feel like, Joey, you and I teaming up to do this co-stream for the Justice is just a recipe for success. I'm not calling it now, but championship. It's not scripted, I promise. But yeah, no, it's really exciting. It's a fun time. We're absolutely honored to have the Justice reach out to us and ask if we would be interested in joining them on the co-stream trail. It's been an absolute blast. Definitely check it out. It's every single Washington Justice regular season match on their YouTube channel for the Washington Justice. So definitely check that out. Stream starts about a half an hour if there's not 2 3-0 matches that happen beforehand, which pushes everything up an hour. It'll usually be a 30-minute countdown, then a quick pregame show, then it kind of goes in there. It's definitely Washington Justice focused. So if you're a Justice fan, please come hang out with everyone else. We've had an amazing chat, amazing viewership. So definitely come hang out with us as we cheer the Justice on to this entire roster. It's absolutely fantastic, on to a big, big season this year in Overwatch League.
Absolutely. And guys, we're Washington Justice fans here, Jon and I both being in the DMV area. But seriously, all bias aside, this team is very, very strong this year. You can look at the professional casters calling it as well for the Overwatch League. They are putting this team most likely in their top 5 for almost everyone's rankings, if not top 3. So you look at a very young player in Mag, who's a rookie, as well as Assassin, both extremely talented. You have veterans like Fury and Decay on the team. Decay is up there as a top 3 MVP nominee as well. So this team's going to be pretty darn good throughout the full season. So regardless if you watch the mainstream, whether you support the Justice in your own way, or whether you come through on the co-stream, we'd love to see you over there. And I think it's going to be a very fun season for Justice fans. Sticking with partnerships and investments, popular aim training tool LvLUp has partnered up with Ubisoft and Riot Games to replicate Rainbow Six Siege and Valorant elements for players to have more specific practice tools at their disposal. Jon, I think this is a good, really evaluation type of thing for different players to go into. You look at LvLUp, it's a tool that a lot of different pro players use as a warm-up or as ways to work on reaction timing. Now, when you have a little bit more specifics, like CSGO was already built in there a little bit, with Valorant and Rainbow Six, it sounds like they're building maps in. They're building weapons so that everything kind of lines up the same. You get your spray patterns the same. So anything specific like that that's going to allow for practice that can be repetitive over and over and over, as opposed to just in the game itself, is going to allow players to not only warm up better, but also continue to tune those skills in an environment where they can just click restart pretty easily. So I think this is a big win for Rainbow Six Siege players, Valorant players, and really LvLUp as well, because now you're attaching yourself to Ubisoft, to Rainbow Six, and to Valorant and Riot Games as well. Big one there. So keep an eye out. Again, guys, if you're a player of one of those games, go ahead and download LvLUp. I believe it's free on Steam. You can go ahead and hop in there. Go ahead and get your settings right and then practice up. And then maybe one day you'll be up there with those challenger players, or with Jon and I in bronze in some of these games.
Oh, wait. Are you saying that Valorant's still installed on my PC?
Hey,
because it's not.
I did get out of bronze. I think I hit silver in Valorant, but I only played like 5 ranked matches. So do with it as you will. They probably overranked me. Yeah, but pretty cool. I like this. I think anything that's going to allow players to really hone their skills in an environment that's kind of replaceable and resettable, for them to switch maps pretty easily, switch guns pretty easily, and just rerun a training course makes it a lot easier than what is already in game in something like a Rainbow Six Siege and a Valorant, which do have their own little practice areas, but it's not as easily resettable as something like this is. Into some other news, Fortnite has continued to expand its empire, which is growing. Even though we can't build it quite fast enough, it continues to move skyward. This time, turning its eye back to NFL fans and adding in Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson and his signature gritty dance into the game. I know D-Rod over here in chat is a Vikings fan as well. This is big. I think it's another way for Fortnite to continue to try to connect with different audiences. Maybe you have, they pretty much have the teen audience down at this point, but maybe a way to branch out into some of that middle-age audience, some of that young adult audience that could be an NFL fan that's looked at Fortnite but said, hey, I'd rather play Apex Legends or Warzone or whatever. Now those Minnesota fans, those NFL fans might be giving Fortnite a second eye because they're adding some figures and idols that they potentially look up to in the game of football. I think that's a big win. And again, it's another way to integrate a new dance. We've seen them do it with streamers. We've seen them do it with a few other athletes and musicians. Why not continue to expand it? And here, Justin Jefferson, the first potentially Vikings athlete, or at least NFL athlete as well, to be added into the game.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe the boomers that are secretly playing this on their mobile devices, because they still haven't figured out what it is, maybe they're trying to connect with their grandkids. They're secretly playing Fortnite, and now they're like, oh, well, I know football. I know that purple team is the Vikings. Maybe, who knows? Then maybe they'll get a quick little V-Buck purchase out of them, and they'll buy a skin, and they'll maybe feel like it's less of a generational gap when they play. Who knows? That's all sarcasm, by the way. It's completely fine if you're a boomer and you play Fortnite.
Absolutely. So Fortnite being one of the biggest battle royales out there outside of like Call of Duty Warzone is up there as well. And then Apex Legends just a little bit lower than that. Apex is trying something new as well, not adding an NFL player and its dance into the game, but switching things up a little bit and adding a new mode. So as a new permanent mode coming in May for Apex Legends, they're looking at cutting down the 20 squad battle royale. It's going to still be there. You can still drop in and go as your party of 3 or whatever and fight it out in a battle royale setting, but you'll also have the option of more focused 3v3 combat as well in their new mode Arena. It's pretty much going to be facing off against enemies in smaller squads, crashing the party, allowing you to focus on surviving and winning the fight. Similar to Battle Royale, but again, smaller scale, a lot more fights and skirmishes since you are only one of 2 squads on the field at a time. You'll compete over multiple rounds, striving to be the last squad standing each time. Before every round starts, you'll use materials earned during the previous round, that is, to upgrade your weapons, as well as get a few ordinances, healing supplies, and different things like that. John, to me, this sounds like I'm going to say a much shorter, much condensed version of something like a CSGO/Valorant. It has a little bit of that Rogue Company flair to it, where it's kind of those turn-based rounds. You're buying before each round, or after each round, rather, and then you're kind of going in with what you've bought based on your performance in the previous rounds and trying to conquer that enemy team. I like it as a variation. I think it's a fun way to continue to build on the IP while not just making it a pure battle royale. At the same point, I'm curious to see how many people will translate over from the battle royale mode.
Yeah, it's definitely a move to kind of pull in the different kind of gamers that may or may not be all in on Battle Royale, i.e. myself. Battle Royale just feels like it's oversaturated, it's overdone. Give me something different. Like, I enjoy Apex. When Apex first came out, it was a fantastic game. I played it almost every day. We won't talk about why everything eventually came to a stop for a bit. But Apex is really trying to rejuvenate this game, and I give them a lot of credit for doing it. I mean, some of these new maps that are even coming out look absolutely fantastic. I'll throw a couple of those up here for you on stream. Like this one here, Party Crasher, looks absolutely fantastic. I like the colors. I like the layout. It's something different. It's something unique. It definitely has an Apex style to it, where it doesn't feel like it's a cookie cutter battle royale map. I think this one is like Mirage lost control of his ship and it crashed. Phase Runner, I mean, look at that. I mean, it's like neon green the entire time. I mean, it's pretty awesome. They're trying different things, so give Apex a lot of credit here for thinking outside of the box, trying to come up with different game modes to attract all kinds of gamers and pushing forward with content. These new maps look great.
Absolutely. Some really cool stuff there coming out from Apex. And as John said, it's a way to get some of those other gamers who might not be interested in Battle Royale. There's so many BR options out there, whether it be you're jumping into pretty much Call of Duty, Fortnite, Apex, CSGO has one. I feel like pretty much every big shooter, PUBG is also a hugely popular one, especially in Asia. So many different people have that Battle Royale genre. When you look at 3v3s, there's not as many options. So it's a way to kind of branch into a new category, potentially pull in new players, and eventually they might move over to your Battle Royale, or maybe your Battle Royale players are getting a little tired with the mode. There's a little bit of repetitiveness. They want to try something else, and it's a way to kind of keep them in your game, keep them logged into your title, and playing and continuing to make friends and connections. So probably a big win overall for Apex. We'll see how it does player count-wise as well, though. Sticking with EA, but switching titles up, EA's upcoming title Knockout City will launch directly into EA Play and Xbox Game Pass for Ultimate subscribers. This means those who are on console and PC, like say a new Xbox Series X, or on a PC, you can play either way. Its recent open beta ended up pulling in 1 million downloads. I believe it was this past weekend, John. It might have been a little bit earlier, but 1 million downloads for a beta is pretty darn good, especially for a game that not too many people have been talking about here and there. So they are finding a way to continue to market it. And then from the word of mouth, everyone seems to have really enjoyed it more than they thought they would. A lot of the early comparisons were to Rocket Arena, which was kind of an EA title that launched for like $30 or $40. Then it fell down and it just never really became anything big. A lot of people saying this is kind of what Rocket Arena should have been. So depending on how you want to look at that statement, it sounds like quite a bit of positive reviews coming out. We'll have to see how it ends up doing, though. But one way to guarantee players up front, we have definitely learned putting things into EA Play and Xbox Game Pass are two ways of doing that. So they'll be doing that for PC players and console players, and it will hopefully end up with a pretty big player base to kick things off. For those who do not subscribe to EA Play or Game Pass, it's going to retail for $19.99 at launch. John, I'll be honest, I was looking at passing on this game, but now that it's in Game Pass and EA Play, I think I'll probably at least give it a download and a try.
Shocker. That's the beauty of the Game Pass. God, I feel like I'm sounding like Joey now. A game that you would not necessarily want to pay full price going to Game Pass, being included with 500 plus other games, is the perfect way to try out new games without the fear of spending $60 freaking and hating it. Yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll download. I have a whole terabyte I can use now. So, I've never had that before with my PlayStation 4. So yeah, we'll find out. Let's see what happens.
Not only that, guys, but this is also a big move for EA. We have it already with Apex Legends, but this particular title will also be cross-play enabled. So whether you're playing on your Xbox console, I believe PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, maybe Nintendo Switch as well. Not 100% sure on that one. But pretty much everyone will be cross-play here as well. So a lot of options for that huge player base up front. This one's a little bit of a crazier topic, a little curious. Our chat is a little bit smaller tonight, but curious what they think for those in chat. For those listeners, this is another one to hit us up with tweets about as well, because this is kind of a giant topic and potentially could really change the landscape of gaming and esports. So diving into it, the Olympics are set to host their first ever gaming series this year with the Tokyo Olympics. The IOC is reportedly considering adding esports in an attempt to attract younger viewers. Current viewership for the Olympics is down 24% in the 18 to 49-year-old demographic. I believe that's actually down to 24%. I could be wrong on that. I'll have to double check that stat. But overall, John, this is something that we have seen really struggle in general. The Olympics trying to find those younger audiences. Part of it is given the time of the Olympics. A lot of them take place during the day, so kids are at school. You also have adults at work still for a lot of these Olympic events. But overall, the viewership has been struggling here and there. And that's for professional sports across the board in a lot of different areas. So one way sports teams, as well as the Olympics here, are looking to get into that is to capitalize on gaming. Now, I have a lot of issues with the Olympics and gaming here. One in particular, and I'm sure you share the same sentiment, is the IOC has had the option to add esports many years before this, and it's been voted on a couple times, and they've said no. But now that their viewership is continuing to struggle, they've decided to come back to esports and act like it's a brand new idea.
You're right. You're 100% correct. The IOC has had multiple opportunities to pull the trigger on this. And the votes haven't been close. Like they did not want esports or video games anywhere in the Olympics. And their reasoning was completely bogus. We're talking about an event that has a historical nature to it that goes all the way back to like the Romans and the Colosseum. Like, look, we're not racing chariots anymore. We're not throwing people to fight tigers in a pit anymore or lions in a pit. Like, the Olympics has evolved with the times. And now the IOC is literally sitting here saying, oh, we don't want to do this. But now, since it's affecting our bottom dollar, it's affecting our viewership, and now maybe we'll go to it. Well, see, look, you solved half of the equation. Yes, bringing esports in is probably the right call. What's the bigger call? What's the better call? Is allowing everything to be accessed digitally, whether it's through an app that someone can access on their smart TV, on their phone, on Twitch, on YouTube. Put it everywhere. Like, that's the one thing a lot of these people in these high-ranking offices, like the IOC or the NFL or Major League Baseball or hockey, don't understand. You have to go where the people are. The people are, the current generation is all digital. Millennials, Gen Z, everyone after that is going to be fully digital. We're a digital world right now. You cannot continue to expect that people are going to have traditional cable packages. They're going to pay $200 a month just to watch the Olympics, or people are going to pay $50, $60, $70 in a pay-per-view kind of style to watch the Olympics. It's not going to happen. You have to have it available where the people are watching. Where are people watching? They're watching on Twitch. They're watching on YouTube. They're watching on smart TVs. They're watching on Hulu TV. They're watching on YouTube TV. They're watching digitally through multiple outlets. Get with the times. You want to get rid of your declining viewership numbers? Go to where the people are. I want to be able to watch curling on my phone while I'm commuting into work. I want to be able to watch the Jamaican bobsled team compete, on my lunch break at work. I shouldn't have to have a $200 TV subscription to watch that online. Make it free, put it up for everyone to watch on all these digital outlets, and that's how you get viewership to go back up. There's tons of money going into esports because that's where the viewers are. Get with the times.
Yeah, my other issues with this is, one, the governing body. When you look at something like basketball, there's a worldwide basketball governing body. Same with soccer. Overall, there's these governing bodies. With esports, there's not really like the head of League of Legends or a head of CSGO. It's really comes down to the game developer is the person overlooking a lot of these esports scenes. And then you have other ones like Nintendo with Smash, for example, where they're not really the overarching governing body. Yes, they make the game, but you have different tournament organizers like Evo and a bunch of these other ones that end up overlooking those particular events. So it's a little bit messier than just a straight worldwide basketball is the one who's overlooking this, or worldwide rowing, or whoever it's going to be overlooking the event. It's a little bit different, and it's a bit different title to title as well. Now, last but not least, John, we have to talk about the 5 games they selected. So if you're going to look to expand your audience, I personally would probably look toward those popular games. Now, you can argue like League of Legends has some fantasy violence, CSGO, Call of Duty, all of these games, they do have shooting in them, so maybe you don't want to include that in the Olympics. Okay, then are you okay with like fantasy gore, like something like an Overwatch where you're not necessarily seeing very much blood or anything like that? It's kind of more of a cartoony style graphic, but it still has guns, so maybe not. It just feels like they're back and forth depending on what they want to include. So wrestling, for example, is in the Olympics. Why not a fighting title? Fighting title did not get included. The titles they included, and these are real bangers, fam. World Baseball Softball Confederation will be overlooking eBaseball Powerful Pro Baseball 2020. This is developed by Konami Digital Entertainment. I honestly had no idea what this is. Now, the Olympics are taking place in Asia this year, so maybe this has a Japanese following behind it. Maybe it is popular over there in Asia, and that's why it's a home event. But it's just not something that, in my personal mind, is going to be a very big worldwide viewer drawer or drawer of viewers. A couple of these other ones, John, again, haven't really heard of many of these. Union Cyclist International will be overlooking Zwift, ZWIFT, for those who play the cycling game that apparently exists out there. Again, no offense to Zwift. I've just never heard of you, and I just don't see this as a big draw for the Olympics. World Rowing is going to have something with open format. World Sailing, the virtual regatta via Virtual Regatta SAS. And then last but not least, the final banger. It's not League of Legends. This one is going to be the Federation Internationale de Automobile, looking over Gran Turismo by Polyphony Digital. John, these are not banging titles to me. Even all of them are not the most popular in their brands. That to me is a big question mark. I get the idea of going to esports to try to bring in a younger audience, but if you're going to do that, pick up titles that people are playing. Why not something like a Minecraft, for example? There's not really much violence in Minecraft, or you can turn it into creative mode if you really want to. There are just better titles out there that are very popular. Roblox is another one. It's huge on the world stage. It's up there in the top 5. There's different ways to go about that where you can integrate events that are not going to be violent. So you have that checkbox done, but you also have a population behind them. versus something like a Zwift or an eBaseball Powerful Pro, or even Gran Turismo is not the most popular driving racing game out there. So this, to me, the idea of moving into esports after denying it so many times is one thing, but then the titles they chose in the end is just a whole nother thing for me.
All right, so this is directed towards the 3 Zwift players here in the United States of America. We're rooting for you. I've never heard of your game before. I hope you're good, whatever good qualifies as in your title. Hope you bring home the gold medal. Yeah. So Joey, here's how I see this going down. The Olympics is going to pick these horrific titles that I wouldn't even really call titles. They're using a 2020 version of a game in 2021. I have an issue with that, but we won't even go there. So they're using these off-brand games, these unpopular games with a very low player population. They're not going to get the views, and then they're going to come out with a report saying this is why we didn't want to do esports. No one tunes in to watch it. I guarantee that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what they're going to do, is they're going to say, we tried it, nobody tuned in. And then we're going to come back here months later and say, well, no one tuned in because you literally picked like the knockoff Mario Kart as a race game for your Olympics. Like you picked a cycling game that no one's ever heard of, where you literally have to hit right trigger, left trigger, right trigger, left trigger for like 500 times for the endurance aspect of it. As an Olympic esport title. It's a complete sham. Like, this is literally the IOC faking a run at esports. This is the IOC saying, okay, you know what? We heard the outcry. We're going to try it. Viewership numbers are down. We're going to go ahead and try it. And they literally pick like E.T. Phones Home, like the worst video game ever created on the Sega Genesis, and say, oh, this is the title we're going to use. There's no one who plays it, but this is what we're going to do. And no one's going to watch it, and we're going to use that to justify why esports is not a legitimate factor for the IOC. I guarantee you we'll be back here on the other side of the Olympics, and we'll be saying exactly that after they come out and say, well, we're not going to consider esports going forward. It's all a sham. I don't trust them one bit.
Yeah, I think that's the exact way I see this playing out as well. It just seems like one of those topics is going to be revisited because they're just not visiting it the right way in the first place. Now, again, to these games, we didn't do a ton of research on this, to be honest. We look at so many different topics each week. So maybe they have big player bases in Asia, or maybe they're hugely popular in Europe and we just don't know that much about them. But it just, when you think traditional esports, you think of the top games out there. You think League of Legends is the biggest one. You have Overwatch up there. You have other ones like the Battle Royales of Fortnite and Apex. CSGO is giant. Valorant is continuing to grow. There are just so many other titles out there. And yes, you can argue the whole violence thing and they want to keep that away from the Olympics. But then look toward fighting titles, for example. They have a big following. You have Smash Brothers. You have Guilty Gear, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, probably the level of violence. And that would probably be a no-no for the IOC. But definitely different things out there to view in different avenues. To me, it almost feels like I wonder if these are like simulation-based games, like some of these. But like even then, like what about these other sims like NBA 2K, for example? Madden is not as worldwide, but FIFA, for example, could be. Or PES even. Like you're looking at soccer titles or looking at baseball. Why baseball over soccer? Soccer is your biggest worldwide sport. Now, I love me some baseball, but if you're thinking of a worldwide sport, soccer. FIFA is your biggest sports selling title as well. So it doesn't feel like they really thought through this. And part of me is kind of on your side as well, John. We're like, is this just planned so that they're going to say they've tried it so that it's going to fail? And they're like, look, see, we told you in the first place. Or is it just them being, I'm going to use the term boomers? Are they just taking this idea as far as like, we think this will work? This is what esports is, right? And we'll see how it happens. So I think it's just a giant mess. I am okay with the idea that they're considering it. I think they should probably pull in some experts from the area if they're really going to truly consider it, though. Anything else to say on this? I feel like we could go on all night.
No, the IOC will continue to fail until they actually get people who can think outside the box leading it. Enough said.
Okay, there you go, fam. You heard it here first, folks, on LvLUp. We have a little bit of other news, then we're going to jump into some game updates and leak some upcoming stuff, and then wrap it up with a couple esports for today's episode. Last night, Respawn Entertainment became the first game studio to ever win an Oscar, with Colette winning the Best Documentary for Short Subject Award. I honestly have not seen this movie, John, so I can't speak too much for it. But the series was co-developed between Respawn Entertainment and Oculus, and it was directed by Anthony Giacchino, which I pronounced terribly wrong because my Italian is not up to par. But he served as the director as well. Looking at Wikipedia, it's a 2020 American documentary film directed by Anthony Giacchino, and produced by Alice Donard. My Italian's so bad, fam. It won the Academy Award for Best. We went over that 93rd Academy Awards as well. So what is it? Let's looking into it. Colette follows former French resistance member Colette Marin Catherine as she travels to Germany for the first time in 74 years. Her visit is inspired by a young history student who enters her life and convinces her to visit the concentration camp that I'm not going to try to pronounce, where her brother died at the hands of the Nazis. And it dives into a bunch of that. And I believe the way it links up to Respawn here is because it is some form of game development. And I believe they drew, I think it's Medal of Honor was the series, the virtual reality game. They came out with Medal of Honor for last year. It kind of drew upon this story, and this was developed kind of in the same vein of making that game.
Mittelbau concentration camp? Is that one?
Mittelbau-Dora, I think is how it's something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I butchered the Italian. I'm not even going to try the German.
No, you're good. Yeah. No, I think this is kind of cool. And, seeing the poster here on stream again, normally anytime you see EA's logo, right here, kind of using my cursor to circle it, usually that's a good meaning to stay away. Especially if it's a sports title. Because this is going to be recycled. No, I think this is cool. It's unique. It's different. It's thinking outside the box. I would not be surprised if more video game developers kind of like cross that magic boundary between video games and Hollywood and movie making. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of the same thing. Both have directors. Both have people who write scripts. Both have story makers. Both have actors. It makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I think it's really cool that they took home an Oscar for it. I mean, we've had a lot of firsts in the Oscars of the past couple of years. Parasite being the first foreign film to win Best Picture. If you've not seen Parasite, I highly, highly, highly recommend watching. It's a very, very good movie. It's a beautiful movie, essentially just talking about the differences in social classes in South Korea, especially in the capital of Seoul. But really, it's a message that can be portrayed everywhere. But yeah, they've been breaking boundaries, and this is another one. I think it's really, really cool to see that Colette took home an Oscar. I think it's really awesome. So kudos. I'm going to say this, Joey. Kudos to EA and Respawn. This feels very weird saying that.
Yeah, it's definitely a different take. Like typically when we think video game movies or TV shows, we think of something like the World of Warcraft movie, something that's much more translated straight as a game, whether it be CGI or whether it be straight of a game story with a little variation. I think this year is really going to test that. Colette very much being in a different vein for 2020 there, taking something that is really not that game related, but that a game was almost based off of rather. We're going to see stuff that's a little bit more game related from like the Last of Us series, the Uncharted series. There's a Halo series that's going to help push Paramount Plus coming out in January. So there's going to be a lot of different video game series. The Elder Scrolls and Fallout, I don't know if they've been officially announced yet, but those two are in the works as well from, I believe, HBO and Netflix, respectively. So a lot of different TV series as well as movies and kind of these short TV series that you see on Netflix and Disney Plus currently being developed out there. And I think they're going to push the boundaries of what we currently see as video game movies. But this is another direction to take that, as John said, like something based upon building the game. So like, what was this game based upon? Obviously the war itself, but there were some deeper stories involved too. And something like Colette came out of that. I'd love to see this more in gaming. Like I think of, I don't remember which version it was, but one of the Assassin's Creed games, if you guys remember when Notre Dame caught on fire over in Paris a couple years ago, to rebuild the cathedral, they're looking at old pictures, but they're also referencing Assassin's Creed. And one of the reasons they're doing that is because those developers spent months over there studying the architecture of Notre Dame, and they rebuilt it in like Unreal Engine 4, completely rebuilt. So your best thing is like, yes, you can look at pictures here and there, but they literally have the framework and the graphics and like the gravity aspects of it built into a game engine. So the best way for them to rebuild Notre Dame is to reference a video game. And that could be a really cool documentary as well. And I'm sure there's tons of more stories out there like that as well. Over to some game updates, leaks, etc. Jon, I am a little mixed on this one. So original rumors placed about the next entry in the Forza Horizon series. It looked like it was starting to point to Japan. I'm imagining myself driving along the coast here, checking out some cherry blossoms, getting some amazing Oriental Japanese architecture, seeing some cool shrines. I was hoping that was what we were going to get, but according to latest rumors, it sounds like we're going a little bit more south of the border of the United States instead. Now rumors are pointing to Mexico, where we can get some interesting stuff. They can fill in not quite rainforest, but a little bit more of that jungly climate. You can get some sand there. There's obviously beaches down in Mexico with the Gulf there. So I'm excited for Mexico. I was super stoked for Japan, but I think I'm okay settling on Mexico as well if that ends up being true.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I personally would have loved to drive the coastlines with you, Joey, in Japan, but that doesn't mean we can't drive the coastlines of Cancun. Does Tijuana have coastlines? I don't know. I think I've been to Mexico once, so I apologize for my ignorance of location here in Mexico. But why not? I mean, I'm completely cool with it. I think it'd be unique. Anything as an American. Anything outside of the U.S. is always going to be more interesting. I do not want to virtually drive the Grand Canyon because I can fly to Arizona and see the Grand Canyon. It just doesn't bother me. But, driving a car in virtual Cancun, that would be fun. Driving a virtual car in Tokyo, that would be fun. But, I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with it. I would have preferred Japan, but I'm completely cool with Mexico too.
And it's one of those things like maybe Japan's going to be the next one. Again, it could still be this one. These are all purely rumors, whether it ends up being Mexico or Japan, regardless. It's fun. Like Forza Horizon 4, I actually don't remember where it's based out of, but it was definitely like the UK. I don't know if it's England specifically or Ireland or Scotland. I feel like it's England, but it was really cool. It was fun to drive around the countryside. They do such a good job graphically with those games. It's very pretty. Everything is voiced really well as well. So I'm excited to see where they end up taking us, whether it be Mexico or Japan. I think it'll be a very fun addition to the franchise. This next one, not as happy news. According to rumors, the production of Call of Duty's 2021 title by Sledgehammer continues to hit snags, and Activision may actually be considering holding the title back instead of releasing it this year. As a result, they might end up releasing a remastered version of Modern Warfare 2 to fill the slate instead. Activision looking to release a Call of Duty title every single year at this point, so if this one is not quite graphically ready to come out, Cyberpunk does make developers nervous with the way that game came out. Now, it did make a ton of money. It did do extremely well overall, but it did get a lot of negative criticism, and the stock itself did not do very well as a result. Activision not looking to have their stockholders and shareholders deal with these same type of things, so they want to release some kind of title, even if Call of Duty, potentially World War II Vanguard or World War II Vanguard, it does not make itself ready enough by October. It'll be Modern Warfare 2 Remastered potentially coming out if this rumor is true. On top of that, according to the rumor, Infinity Ward's Modern Warfare 2, not the remastered edition, will remain scheduled to launch next year in 2022. Jon, my thoughts on this, and I mentioned them before on the show, I don't think a Call of Duty title needs to release every single year. I liked when it was on a 2-year cycle. I know they added a third developer with Sledgehammer coming in. So now you have Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer. But I like when you could have that consistency where it's like, I spent 1 year playing this Call of Duty title. It was lots of fun. How can I improve in the second year? It brings some more consistency to the esports scene as well. Now you have Warzone to carry it too. So you don't necessarily need that over the year revenue year over year because you have Warzone that's bringing in tons on cosmetics and microtransactions. Your player count is still high through that as well. So I'm okay with them not releasing this. I don't want it to go completely away if they can find a way to whether integrate it in or release it next year or whatever they end up doing for Sledgehammer's sake, rather. But overall, I would love to see them go back to it every 2 years as opposed to every single year, even trying to push these titles out.
Yeah, I mean, especially for esports sake, you just can't keep releasing a brand new game with completely different mechanics. It does take the pros some time. And if you're a pro that specializes in a certain play style, and then the game just completely changes the mechanics of the game, you could be without a job. Take a look at NBA 2K League with this. It was mainly because it's a new generation for gaming consoles too. There is a big difference between last year's and this year's NBA 2K game with its shooting mechanics, and it took the pros a very, very long time. Fun fact, a lot of people think that the pros get the game well before the rest of the population does. It's not true. They don't. Like, they may get it a couple days before, but they're like everyone else. They have to wait. So, the fact that, if the game's delayed and it's a brand new mechanic coming out, they're going to have to learn. And then who knows, maybe that, player that plays on your favorite NBA 2K League team, that's been popping off for the past 3 seasons, all of a sudden, now they're out of a job because they can't conform to the new mechanic. Obviously the developer made some changes and now, everyone's kind of learned and they're able to go about playing it now. But that's what you don't want to do for Call of Duty is by releasing a new game every year, you have to find different ways to make it fresh. You do that by changing mechanics. By changing mechanics, you put people out of a job when it comes to esport titles. Now, maybe they just don't care about the esport scene. Maybe they're just looking at the casual gamer that wants a new Call of Duty title every year. If that's the case, fine, so be it. But the millions and millions of dollars that you're potentially bringing in from the esports scene is then going to be affected by it.
Absolutely. So definitely a factor for everyone to consider, from Activision to players to everyone out there. I do like the idea if they want to put out these remasters. I think they're a good way to kind of buffer here and there. At the same point, you do kind of pull your multiplayer audience. And with that in mind, does Call of Duty League end up sticking with the Cold War version of Call of Duty, or does it go to the Modern Warfare 2 remastered version? So I think that's a big question for Call of Duty League to answer as well. Moving into just a few quick upcoming things to put on your radar for this upcoming week and a little bit beyond. Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition is free to download late. I have today because it's been in here for a couple weeks now, but through May 14th. So you guys have about 2 weeks left to go ahead, maybe 3 weeks even. We'll just mention it here and there on the show, but please, if you have not already played it, if you do not already own it, if you have a PlayStation, it is definitely worth downloading. Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition, I believe it won Game of the Year or was runner-up for Game of the Year at the time it came out. Very good game. It doesn't necessarily resonate with everyone, but hey, free should. Free is definitely something to take advantage of, so go ahead and get that downloaded. Sony has announced a PlayStation State of Play for this Thursday, April 29th at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Guys, this will be fun, but don't get overhyped for it. It's going to feature extended gameplay for upcoming title Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. There was a trailer, I think, that dropped today as well. So if you're a Ratchet & Clank fan, it's pretty cool. They're going to take advantage of some of the next-gen capabilities that only these next-gen consoles will be able to deal with, really. I don't know if this one's launching in PS4 as well or not. But overall, some of the features will definitely be PS5 only. It's worth checking out, though. Pretty cool trailer. They're going to dive a little bit more into some gameplay on Thursday, and then they're also going to give some updates on a pair of upcoming indie titles. Do not be expecting them to drop some kind of crazy news or to show you God of War, to show you Horizon Forbidden West, because you're probably not going to see that at this State of Play. It's simply going to focus on gameplay for Ratchet & Clank as well as a couple indie updates. So don't go too hyped into the show, but it should be pretty cool overall. Additionally, in PlayStation World, PS5 exclusive Returnal from Housemarque is set to launch later this week, and that's April 30th. It's one of those, I believe it's like a third-person action-adventure horror-style title. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. They dropped a trailer, I believe, last week as well that we touched on. So that's Returnal, dropping on April 30th. Over to the Xbox side, just a couple of final Game Pass editions for April. This week, Second Extinction, Early Access with Achievements is dropping on April 28th. That's for Cloud Console and PC. Destroy All Humans, also dropping this week, April 29th. That one's coming to Cloud Console and PC. And last but not least, Fable 3 and Fable Anniversary will be coming on April 30th to the cloud platform, now available on PC and iOS as well. Go ahead and check those out if you are a Game Pass subscriber. If not, maybe they're a reason to subscribe, or maybe they're just some other games added to a library. We'll let you decide on that, but pretty cool stuff being added. And we should hear more about Game Pass for May, as well as the PlayStation Plus May titles coming out pretty soon as well. Brings us to a couple eSport League wrap-ups, Sean. We have a little bit of Overwatch League to touch on for week 2, as well as one thing with the LCS Academy. Then we're going to wrap up today's juicy show for our listeners. Let's talk through Overwatch League, though. We had a rundown, so we talked about how we are now the official co-streamers for the Washington Justice, #sponsored. Super excited to be with the Justice all season long there on their streams, as well as working with the Overwatch League, a wonderful league in and of itself. So with that being said, we are currently in the May Melee qualifiers, kind of an early season tournament happening for the Overwatch League. Let's go ahead and talk through some of these standings, John. Is there anything that you're super surprised by standing-wise so far in particular?
I'll tell you what I'm not surprised by. That's the Justice sitting at 2-0.
Hey!
I mean, when you take a look at it, Philadelphia is still a very, very solid team overall. No one's really surprised that they're 4-0 with a +9 map differential. I mean, they're a very, very good team. Houston Outlaws, they're a team. They just got Jake back. Jake was a caster last year for Overwatch League, and he came back. Doesn't look rusty at all. In fact, I believe one of the games he just got done playing this past weekend, he played DPS, support, and tank in 3 games. So that's pretty impressive. He is a very talented player. So Houston being up there, that's not really a surprise. I think the bigger surprise for Houston is the fact that Dallas took them 5 games in week 1. Took them to all 5 maps. I think that was pretty impressive for Dallas, who's currently sitting in 7th. But I'm really excited for teams like the Washington Justice and for Florida Mayhem, teams that, may not have performed at their best level for the past couple of years. Yes, the Justice had that amazing run in the playoffs last year, but prior to that, it was a team that really struggled to find an identity. It was a team that really struggled to pull things together. Same thing with Florida. The Florida Mayhem had moments where they were really good. They had moments where they were really bad. But to see both of these teams now tied in 4th place, undefeated 2-0, that's exciting to see. Like, you want to see those teams. I mean, Joey, remember the Shanghai Dragons and their horrific 0-46 start in the Overwatch League? When they won their first game, they won the hearts and minds of gamers all over the world, just because, how many different versions of that roster did they go through? How many coaches and front office and everything? They tried so hard to get to where they are today, and they played out of their mind last year. And then I believe, let me take a look where they're at currently. They're currently in 11th, 1-1. Not a bad start. They're sitting at an even 0 for map differential. So, not the best start, but it's still the season's early. But I'm really excited for those teams that historically haven't performed well, for continuing to fight, get together a roster that works together, and then push forward and fight. And now we see the Justice and Florida Mayhem, even Toronto up there, tied in 4th, and Toronto now in 6th, 2-0. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think some of the other interesting facts here are, so for this May Melee event coming up, there's only one team that is mathematically eliminated at this point, and that is the 0-4 Vancouver Titans. They will not be making it to May Melee, but there's still a number of teams in the running. Now, some obviously you're going to have a little bit of a harder time because they pretty much have to win out, plus rely on opponents to lose or win, depending which side of the coin you end up looking at. But the other interesting factor, and Pre mentioned this in a tweet earlier, the defending world champion in San Francisco Shock could potentially miss qualifying for the May Melee event as well. And that to me just shows, one, that the season in the league in general has just been so much more competitive than what we've seen in the past early on. We've seen some teams pop off early on. We've seen other teams kind of sink early on in the past. This one in particular, you have a lot of teams competing right now, a number of teams at 2-0, a number of teams at 2-2, some 1-1, a lot of even teams across the board. And it seems like Power, not that it's not top heavy, because there are definitely some top heavy teams, but it's a little bit more even down the middle than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, San Francisco, they're still a good team. Yeah, they don't have Sinatra anymore on that roster, but they're still an overall solid team. And like you said, Joey, Pre's talking, and I believe Pre has a stream on tonight as well, talking about the different ways that this bottom half for the West Division could possibly miss the playoffs, like the Shock, the Paris Eternal, Atlanta, Boston, London. London's not too far behind Vancouver. Poor Vancouver, 0-4, 4-12 when it comes to maps. It's a -8 map differential. They went 1-3 in every single one of their matchups since the start of this season. They've taken at least one map. In fact, that's all they've taken is one map. That's just tough. Like, Joey, I mean, I remember when the Titans first came into Overwatch League, they were taking the world by storm for a bit. But then people kind of figured them out a little bit. Vancouver plays more of the rush meta, and it hasn't really worked for them. It feels like that double bubble seems to be the best way, or a version of the double bubble meta, and it's just the Titans have fallen down, and we're seeing the teams that tend to run that rush comp struggle a little bit more early on in the season.
Yeah, that as well as a number of player changes. We did see them go through quite a few of or let's call it a roster overhaul, more or less, between the seasons. So toward the end of last season, they saw a departure of a number of players. They brought in some new blood. And overall, that has not quite translated in the win column as of yet. So we'll see over time. They do have some veterans over there. They have some rookies over there. We'll see how that roster continues to develop. But at least for now, they are eliminated from the May May Melee event. And some of these other teams, like you said, and like I said earlier, the San Francisco Shock, it's very interesting to see someone who has been a world champion not once, but multiple times. It's still early in the season. It's still very few games played, but currently, at least at the current moment standing-wise, they are not qualifying. So they could still very well qualify, and they could be in safe and sound. But at the moment, the fact that the past champion with a similar roster is being pushed to this limit, I think is a big statement for the league overall, just how well not only these rosters have been built, but how talent has continued to grow over time too. Last but not least for today, anything else you want to say on the Overwatch League actually before we move on? I'm pretty excited. It's still early, so we can't dive too much into like what the team's strengths look like and power rankings and anything like that because it's just week 2, guys. But as we head more into May, I think we'll be able to dive a bit more into what Jon and I think power ranking wise, besides putting the Justice at the top, of course, what some of these other teams are looking like and how we can see the season potentially shake out as it goes on.
Or we can talk about how IBM Watson is absolutely awful at power rankings already.
Yeah, why did they go to IBM Watson? They could have come to LvLUp and OTN. We could have helped them out. But hey, guys, I mean, it's not like we predicted some of the playoffs and pretty much hit every single matchup last year. But that's just us talking, of course. You guys can go watch those past episodes. If you guys want to check us out, pretty much call us IBM Watson, the correct edition. With that being said, Jon, let's head over to League of Legends. LCS Academy had a competitive ruling come out this past week. Guys, this one's a mess. This is not happy news. This is not good news in any way. TLDR, Solified Esports ownership has been unable to pay the negotiated salaries of their League of Legends players, coaches, and management staff dating back to January 1st of this year. Quick check of my wristwatch that also has the date on it. Not really. I'm not even wearing one. We're in April, guys, the end of April. This has been going on for almost 4 full months at this point that these players, management, staff, coaches, etc. have not been paid. No bueno, fam. No bueno. Colin Oddity Ethan is banned from any association or affiliation with a team in a Riot-sanctioned league indefinitely. So this is going to expand beyond League of Legends. This is going to include your Valorant. Potentially, if Riot Games Fighting title comes out later this year, that will include that as well. Any Riot-sanctioned league indefinitely, with the first opportunity to apply for reinstatement to a league position on January 1st, 2024. Last but not least, due to Oddity's ban, Solified may only participate in Riot-sanctioned leagues after a confirmation or change of ownership, or a confirmation of change of ownership. So we've seen this with CSGO before, Jon, where teams have not been paid by their ownership group, and those players are kind of left stranded in a sense. Not that it's Riot's fault here. It's mainly the ownership, of course, for not paying them, but it is a bit of a tough situation because now you say, okay, you guys are talented, you're a great team, but you haven't been paid by your owner, so now you can't play in the league, and your owner is kind of acting like a dirtbag for not paying you guys to begin with. So this is something, unfortunately, that we see in esports time and time again. You're not seeing it with your big teams like a Team Liquid or a Fnatic or a Cloud9. It's typically happening at whether the academy level or the regional league level. Some of these smaller orgs that are trying to make it into esports, seeing how lucrative it can be potentially with all these 2.1, 2.2 billion valuations. Now you're looking at these teams trying to find their way to insert themselves into it, but in doing so, they might not have the funds to pay the players or pay the coaches, or maybe they do have the funds, but they're not funneling it the way they should. So Solified being the latest example of this, unfortunately, happening in esports. Anything you want to say about Solified? I know we've talked about this a number of times. Not this necessarily, but I know we've hit on it with like CSGO before. And it's so unfortunate that stuff like this is currently happening in esports.
Pay your players. Like, seriously. Like, if you're going to get into esports, pay your players. If you can't pay your players, then you as the owner, pony up the money. That's your responsibility as an owner. You're going to sign people. They're giving you value. They're giving you time. They're giving you a part of their life. The least you could do is pay them. I get it. The global economy kind of sucks at the moment. There is an international pandemic. But Joey, last time I checked, people are still getting paychecks. People are still getting hopefully paid. Esport athletes are in a good position with these contracts. They haven't been affected too much by the global pandemic. It's not like we're hearing organizations are laying players off left and right because of the pandemic. So they can't really use that excuse. There really is no excuse. You had millions and millions of dollars to fund your organization, to create a roster, to create a competitive roster to go into a game. You paid for the spot. You should be able to pay for your roster. You can't do it. You shouldn't be getting involved. You don't have a backup plan. You still shouldn't be getting involved. Plain and simple. I hate it when these stories come out. I absolutely hate it. The players absolutely get shafted, and it's not fair to them. It is not fair, and I am glad with this ruling. Sometimes I wish Riot was a little more harsh on the owners when they do stupid things like this. But it just irks me. It irks me so bad.
And it's one of those things, like, we don't have every detail, but also from the player perspective, like, if you guys are young, aspiring esports pros listening to the podcast right now, one, have lawyers look over the contract, which in this case you may have, but also bring stuff like this up earlier. Like, maybe you did the second week of January and we just don't know. But for this to go 4 full months before anything is resolved, and yes, it probably took a month or so of investigation from Riot, and I get that, but bring it up earlier and earlier. If you go 2 weeks without pay, if you go a month especially without pay, it's time to say something to someone, whether it be the league officials at Riot, whether it be your parents, whether it be your agent, whether it be someone else out there, maybe from a different org. It is definitely worth mentioning. And yeah, it's one of those things where you have to get it out there early. I know a lot of people feel like a victim in this situation, and maybe you just have a trust with the ownership group where it's like, oh, we're having some financial struggles, but it'll be fine next month. That's good and dandy, but you still need to make sure you're mentioning this stuff to someone. Like, maybe you bring Riot in and say, hey, org, we should probably talk to Riot. I get that you're waiting. I'm okay waiting a month, but let's at least get someone else involved. And if they say no, then you know there's a bigger issue involved there, and you probably want to get some more people involved too. So just because you're an esport athlete does not mean you're at the will of the organization. You should follow the rules, sure, but if something is not happening according to your contract or according to what you think should be goodwill in that situation, mention it to someone, parent, lawyer, org, overarching group, someone. So definitely get out there and communicate before you go 4 months without being paid, because that's just definitely not a good spot to be in.
I wouldn't continue to work if I didn't get paid for that long.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'd tell them, like, all right, cool. So, no, too bad, so sad. And, you know, this generally happens with smaller organizations that are trying to make it. You know, you don't see these stories from a TSM or a Cloud9 or a Fnatic, you know, teams that, you know, obviously they started small. They were patient. They did what they had to do. And then they built themselves up to the point where they're, you know, multi-million, if not $100 million+ organizations that if something like this was to happen, they're set. They're good to go. They still can compete. They still have funds coming in. They still have partnership deals, marketing deals, sponsorship deals. They're set. They're good to go. There's nothing wrong with bringing it up. Always remember that, you know, it may be exciting that you signed your first contract to play an esport title with this organization. It's your foot in the door. But remember, the organization sees you as a means to an end. As soon as that means comes to an end, organizations don't have loyalty. And I'm not just talking esports. I'm talking in life. Like, you are an employee. Like, if you enjoy working for that company, that's great. But as soon as that relationship, as soon as they don't see a means to an end for you anymore, they have no problem moving on. And that's a very tough lesson to learn early on in life, especially when you're excited. Using esports as an example, getting that first break into an organization, you're getting a paycheck to play video games, you're super excited, you have every right to be super excited, but you have to remember, at the end of the day, it is a business, and business does come first for these organizations. So just always keep that in mind. And as a player, again, if you don't get paid, there's no point in continuing to work for free. It's not right to you. You are talented. You have the skill. You put the time and effort into it. You should be compensated for that. And if you have a contract, hold them liable to it. Get a lawyer and get that money.
Absolutely. Great advice there, John. And I think we can end today's show on that. So you guys got a bunch of stuff. We talked roster moves, acquisitions. We talked John's acquisition. If you guys didn't hear that, go ahead and rewind back to the top of the show. Definitely worth listening to. We'll probably promote it a little bit on Twitter here and there as well. We talked some upcoming gaming news. We dove into a number of things like the Olympics coming up and potentially hosting some esports in there. Respawn Entertainment winning an Oscar, the first game studio to do so. A number of things like Overwatch League Week 2, this particular thing with the LCS, and much more. Guys, just a heads up, we might be back on Thursday. We might not. We do have an event on Thursday, so we'll keep you updated. Go ahead and check us out on Twitter for that, and that is at LvLUp Live, LvLUp Live. We'll hit it in the closing as well, but just to give you guys a heads up in case you do skip that closing, it's a TBD on Thursday's show for now.
It's a TBD because we're co-streaming for the Washington Justice that day also at 4:30. So if you want to watch Overwatch League with a taste of justice, or should I say a sip of justice, head on over. Justice YouTube channel. Watch it, 4:30. We'll be there. We'll be leading it on and participate in chat. It's a fun time. And then depending on how we feel. Yeah, Joey, who knows? We might be doing a lot of camera time on Thursday. All right, Nation, that is going to do it for this Monday edition of LvLUp Live. Before you go, head over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you will get access to exclusive content that nobody else can get unless they are a part of the Overtime Network. If you have not already done so, make sure you follow the show here on Twitch to catch the next episode of LvLUp Live. If you listen to the show on our podcast feed, please do leave us a review. The LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We would love to hear from you. In fact, we love to hear from our entire audience so much there's multiple ways for you to reach out to us. Joey, what are some of those ways?
Absolutely. LvLUp Nation, head on over and find us on Twitter first and foremost. That's at LvLUp Live, LvLUp Live. In addition to that, you can follow the umbrella company, the host of LvLUp Live, that is OTN Media, on Twitter and Facebook at OTN Media, as well as on Instagram at OTN_media. Last but not least, this show is on Twitch Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, as well as a number of other streams throughout the week. That is twitch.tv/OTN Media. Again, guys, a TBD for this upcoming Thursday show. We'll let you know. Go ahead and take a look at Twitter to find out if it's happening. But for now, it's a TBD.
Absolutely. So make sure you do pay attention to social media for Thursday to find out if we'll be live on the 29th as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news. Do your ears a favor, hit that sub button here on Twitch or on your podcatcher of choice to know when the next episode of LvLUp Live is ready for your listening and viewing pleasures. We will possibly see you Thursday. If not Thursday, definitely on Monday. Have a great week. We will see you later. Be nice to your fellow gamers online. And Joey, as always,
Level up.